Hello everyone. In this lecture, we will be looking at position property in CSS. Position property is used to position element in a web page. To exactly position a HTML element in a web page. Position property takes 5 different values. I'm in line number 27. I'm including a comment here. Position property takes 5 different values. Static, relative, absolute, fixed and sticky. So now let's start with position static. All HTML elements have position as static by default. So no need to explicitly specify any element with position static. Let's look at this with an example. I'm in line number 29. We'll have a div. Div, I'm giving class as div1 because we are going to create 2 divs, div1 and div2. So the first one class is div1, position property 1. So and for the second div, it's a similar div, but I'm just going to give the class name as div2, position property 2. Okay, so using internal CSS, we are going to style these 2 divs. First div1. So I'm going to add a border 4 pixels, solid red. And for the second div, I'm going to use position property, that is explicitly mention the position property and then add a border. That is both div1 and div2 are same except the div2 has additional property position set to static. So this example is to show you that position static is not needed for all the elements. Position static property is already all the elements have position static by default. So position static property is not explicitly needed. So even if we add, it is not going to make any change. So that is what we are going to see with this example. So I'm going to give the same border. 4 pixels, solid red, and in addition to that we'll have position property set to static. So let's save the work and go to the output. Okay, here is the output. Let me give some break so that there will be a line break. Okay, here refresh. So we have the output div1, div element with class name div1 and class name div2. So let's go to developer tools. Here is div1. So div1 is with border 4 pixels solid red and div2 has border 4 pixels with solid red, but it has additional property position set to static. But even if I uncheck or enable or disable, the output is same because all the elements has position static assigned by default and we do not want to explicitly assign an element with position static. Position static means the position cannot be changed. With position static, top, left, bottom, right properties have no effect and need not be used. So we will understand position static better when we look at position relative. Next is position relative. An element with position relative is positioned relative to its original position. So we saw about top, left, bottom, right properties, right? I mentioned about top, left, bottom, right properties before, right? So all those properties will be needed for position relative. Okay, for position static, as the name indicates, static means you cannot change. So position static cannot be changed. Position relative can be changed by using properties top, left, bottom and right. So we will see how to do that. So here for div2, line number 32, we have a div with class name div2 and it is styled in line number 14 in CSS. Here, instead of position static, I'm going to change this as relative. And when we use position relative, we can use top, left, bottom, right properties to position the element. So here I'm going to give top 50 pixels and left 100 pixels. And I'm going to make the width of this div to 50%. Top 50 pixels, left 100 pixels, and width is 50%. Now let's check the output. Okay, the first div, it's not affected because it is by default it's a static div. The second div, we'll see what is happening with the second div. So I'm highlighting the second div, and it has position relative. With position relative, 4 CSS properties can be used: top, left, bottom, right. So we are using 2 properties here, top and left. So what is position relative? Position relative means we can position that element relative to its original position. That is, from its original position, we can move it down, left, right, or top. Okay, from its original position, we can move that element. That is what position relative means. Here, if I take position relative, the original position of this div is here. This is the original position of this div. So from this original position, by giving position as relative, we are going to move this element 50 pixels from its current position. So I am checking this. I am taking out the left. First we'll focus on top. So when I take out the top, you can see it is in its original position. So now when I check on, when I enable top 50 pixels, it is coming down 50 pixels from its current position. See, now the div has moved 50 pixels from top, that is from its original position. And when I enable left also, now the element has moved 50 pixels from top and 100 pixels from its original left position. Next we look at position absolute. Let's take an example. We are going to use nested div to look at this absolute position example. So div, class name, I'm going to give the class name as parent. And inside that we are going to have another div with class name child. And I'm going to write child element here. And closing the parent div. Okay, what is position absolute? An element with position absolute will be positioned with respect to its parent or its nearest ancestor, whichever has the position relative. That is, if its immediate parent has position set to relative, then that will be taken as reference point. Or any other nearest ancestor element which has position relative, that will be taken as a reference point. And we can use top, left, bottom, right properties with position absolute and move this child element. So now we will style this using CSS. We have the class name is parent, right? So period parent. Here we are going to give some border to the parent div. We are going to set the position property to relative for this parent. Okay, and next we will style the child element. Okay, here in line number 18 we have styled the child div element. We have given some border and we have set the position to absolute. And we have used top and left properties. So top is set to 20 pixels, left is set to 40 pixels, and we have given width, we have set some width and height to this div. So since this child element has position absolute, this element will be positioned with reference to its parent because the parent has position relative, right? So because of that, this child element will be positioned with respect to its parent, and from its parent it will be moved 20 pixels from top and 40 pixels from left. In line number 17, for the parent div, we have to give some width and height, because it's a container. It does not have any text inside it. So we are giving some width of 600 pixels and height of 500 pixels. Okay, let's check the output. Okay, here is the output. So let me move this developer tools to the right so that it will be easy to explain. So we have our parent div. Where is our parent div? Okay, here is div class is equal to parent. So this div has a border like green border, and its position is set to relative, and we have set width of 600 pixels and height as 500 pixels. And we have child div here. So this child div will be positioned with respect to its parent, since its parent has position set to relative. So now we have this child div and its position is set to absolute. So that means we can use top, left, bottom, right properties. So if I uncheck top, left, you can see this child element sits in the top left corner of the parent div, because this is its original position. So it is taking parent as its reference because parent has position relative set. So it is sitting on the top left corner of the parent. So when I enable this top 20 pixels, then from its original position it will be moved 20 pixels, right? And when I enable left 40 pixels, from its original position it will be moved 40 pixels from left to right. Okay, is this clear? So what is the absolute positioned element? Absolute positioned element will be positioned with reference to its ancestor element, whichever ancestor element has the position relative. In this case, the immediate ancestor, parent itself, has position relative, so it's easy. So it is just taking its parent as a reference, and we are moving the child element using top, left, bottom, right properties. So let me use right instead of left, right 40 pixels. So here you can see from top it is moved 20 pixels, and from right, this is the rightmost position, right? From right it is moving towards left 40 pixels. And instead of top, let's use bottom. So here we are able to move this child element to the bottom, that is from this is 0 pixels in the bottom, right? From here it is moving 20 pixels, bottom 20 pixels, right? So this way, using this position property, we can easily position the HTML elements. Let's take a scenario. What if the parent div is not a relative element? So in that case, how the child element behaves? Here in line number 17, we'll remove this position relative for this parent element. So now which element this child div will take as a reference? If parent div is not a relative element, then child div element will look for any other ancestor with position relative. So in our code, in this example, we don't have any other element with position relative, right? So in that case, the child element will be positioned with respect to the document body. It will take a document body as a reference. And top, left, bottom, right properties will be used to position this child element with reference to the body. So let's look at the output. Can you see this child element placed in the top? So let me increase the border thickness. So I'll make border to 8. Can you see this child element? This child element is placed like it's overlapping over another element. What is happening? This is because no other ancestor element has position relative, right? So this child element is taking body as the reference point. So from the body, it is coming down top 20 pixels. Let's make it as 50 pixels. So you can see it is moving 50 pixels from the top of the document body, right? And this child element is moved 40 pixels from the document left, from the leftmost part of the document, right? So let's make it as 140 pixels. I hope this example is clear for you all. You can see here this child element is overlapping over other elements in the web page. That is because absolute position elements are removed from the normal flow and they can overlap over other elements in the web page. By using this position absolute property, we will be able to place any element anywhere in the web page. Now we will look at the next value for position property, which is fixed. What is position fixed? Elements with position fixed always stay in the same place even if the page is scrolled. And top, left, bottom, right properties are used to position a fixed element. In many websites, you have noticed chat feature in the bottom right corner of the page, and it will keep on appearing even when we scroll down the page, right? Those kind of chat blocks are created with position fixed. So let's look at it with an example. So I am having a div with class name fixed block. Now let's style this using CSS. I'm in line number 20. Okay, so we have styled this div with class name fixed. Position is set to fixed. And we are using bottom and right property to place this element in the bottom right part of the document. And width is given as 300 pixels and we have given some border. And we have to scroll the page, right? So I'm adding some dummy content so that we can scroll through the page. Some dummy heading elements. So let's save this and go to the output. So now we are able to scroll through the page, right? So can you see? The fixed element is placed in the bottom right corner of the page, and even when we scroll up or down, it stays fixed, right? So I'm highlighting the fixed div with the class name fixed. Since we have bottom 0 pixels and right 0 pixels, it is appearing in the bottom right corner. So let's make, instead of bottom, top. I'm changing bottom to top. Now we can see this block in the top. And always it stays in the top because it has position fixed. So hope you are clear with the position fixed property. Last one is position sticky. What is the difference between position fixed and sticky? Sticky means when we scroll through the page, the element will scroll through, but once it reaches some offset point, it will acquire the nature of fixed element and it will stay in its place. And after that, it will not move. It will stay fixed. Let's look at an example. I'm in line number 47. I'll just copy this and paste. And I'm going to give the class name as sticky. And we'll style this. Okay, here in line number 22, we have styled this sticky element. We have given position as sticky and top 0 pixels. That means when top 0 pixels is reached, the element will stick and it will remain there in the same position even after scrolling the page. Okay, let's look at the output. So we have our sticky block here just below this div container. So when we scroll through the page, it's scrolling normally, and when it reaches the top of the page, you can see it sticks, right? So here we have this sticky block. Let me change top from 0 pixels to 40 pixels. That means when it reaches top 40 pixels of the document, it will stick. So let's scroll down. Fine, it sticks here. So there is a 40 pixel space from the top of the document. So there it sticks. Hope this is clear. This way of sticky positioning effect is often seen with navigation headers in websites. Have you noticed? Navigation header, it will scroll down and at one point it will stop. It will change to fixed. You can see in many websites that navigation headers will have the sticky positioning effect. Right? Okay. In this lecture, we learnt about position property and how to make use of it to position the elements in the web page. This position property is very important, and for your practice I have posted an assignment using this position property concepts. So please take your time to complete the assignment. So you need to create the given page in the assignment, and it focuses mainly on position property. If you have any questions related to the assignment or any other topic, you can email me. The email ID is available in the course description. In the next lecture, we'll be creating a website using all the concepts that we have learned so far, and we'll also learn about parallax effect. Thank you.